You are Meyer Lansky, and this is your story. The FBI followed you for 50 years. They tapped your phones, they bugged your bedroom, they assigned agents to follow you to the racetrack, to the synagogue, to the dog park. They built a surveillance apparatus around one 5'4" Jewish man from the Lower East Side that would have impressed the KGB 50 years, hundreds of agents, millions of dollars, and when you died on January 15th, 1983 at 80 years old, in your own bed, of lung cancer, with your shoes off, they had nothing. Not one serious conviction, not $1 recovered, not 1 day served. The government spent half a century trying to prove you were the most powerful criminal in America. And all they ever caught you doing was walking your dog. That dog, by the way, was a Shih Tzu named Bruiser. Let that sink in. Let's break it down. The FBI believed Meyer Lansky had hidden $300 million in offshore accounts. That is the equivalent of over $2 billion today. They believed he invented the system of laundering mob money through Swiss banks, routing it back into American corporations as loans so clean you could eat off them. One frustrated FBI agent, after years of finding nothing, summarized their situation in an internal memo that later became famous. He wrote, "Lansky would have been chairman of the board of General Motors if he had gone into legitimate business." That memo was a compliment, and Lansky knew it. But let us go back to where it started, because before Meyer Lansky was the mob's accountant, before he was the architect of the National Crime Syndicate, before he was the man Godfather 2 turned into Hyman Roth, he was a 9-year-old immigrant boy getting off a boat at Ellis Island with a mother who could not remember his birthday. The immigration official at the processing desk asked for his date of birth. His parents cannot produce the paperwork. The records from their hometown in the Russian Empire, a city called Grodno, were not exactly meticulously maintained for Jewish families. The official looks at the calendar. It is July 4th, 1902. He writes it down. "Happy Independence Day, kid. You are American now." Meyer Lansky will carry that accidentally patriotic birthday for the rest of his 80 years. A man who spent his entire life being accused of betraying America was, by bureaucratic accident, born on the day it was founded. You could not write that. The family settles on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, the most crowded neighborhood in the most crowded city in America. Tenement buildings where 6 families share one bathroom and the walls are thin enough to hear your neighbor's arguments in 3 languages simultaneously. It is loud, it is poor, it is chaotic. Compared to Grodno, it is paradise. In Grodno, being Jewish meant living under the constant threat of pogroms, organized mob violence against Jewish communities, carried out with the official tolerance or active participation of the Russian government. Meyer watched things as a small child that no child should watch, and he made a decision that would define the next 70 years of his life. He was never going to let that happen again. Not to him, not to his people, not on his watch. The Lower East Side in 1915 does not offer many legitimate paths to that kind of security. What it does offer is a floating craps game. You are 14 years old and very good at numbers. Not good the way a kid is good at arithmetic. Good the way a calculator is good at arithmetic. Fast, automatic, and never wrong. You start running the numbers at the craps game. You manage the money. You spot the cheats before they cheat. You know the odds on every throw before the dice leave the shooter's hand. And then you meet Benjamin Siegel. Bugsy is 3 years younger than you, constitutionally violent in ways you are not, and absolutely fearless in ways that frankly concern you. He is also the best enforcer you have ever seen. He does not threaten people. He does not negotiate. He simply arrives and things get resolved. The division of labor is immediate and obvious. You do the math. Bugsy does the math differently. It is the beginning of a partnership that will last 30 years, build Las Vegas from scratch, and end with Bugsy bleeding out in his girlfriend's living room in Beverly Hills while you are in a different city entirely, with a very solid alibi. We will come back to that. Let's break it down. The Bugs and Meyer mob starts as a small street operation and within 5 years becomes the most professional criminal organization in New York. Not the biggest, the most professional. There is a difference. They provide stolen trucks and professional drivers to bootlegging distribution networks across New York, New Jersey, and into the Midwest. They run protection, hijacking, and gambling, and they develop, specifically around Bugsy, a reputation for professional murder for hire, so efficient and so reliable that it becomes a direct institutional ancestor of what law enforcement will later call Murder Incorporated. Here is something The Godfather never shows you about Hyman Roth. The film presents him as a financial operator, cunning, elegant, a man who moved money. The real Lansky at 25 was running an organization that committed murder professionally and sent men with baseball bats to break up Nazi rallies in Manhattan. That is not the movie. That is the Tuesday. The Nazi rally detail deserves its own moment because it is one of the most extraordinary things in Lansky's entire career and almost nobody knows it happened. 1933. Adolf Hitler has just come to power in Germany. The German-American Bund begins holding pro-Nazi rallies in New York City. German Americans wearing uniforms, raising their arms, celebrating the man who is at that exact moment beginning to systematically murder Jews in Europe, in New York City, in America, out in the open. A New York judge named Nathan Perlman, a former congressman, comes to you with a specific request. He wants you to break up the rallies, not to kill anyone, to break them up, to make them physically impossible to continue. Your men attend the next rally. They are not subtle about it. The Nazi sympathizers are beaten severely enough that the rally cannot continue. Your men are arrested. You bail them out. They go to the next rally. Judge Perlman offers to pay you for your services. You refuse. When he presses you, you say, "I am a Jew. I feel for the Jews in Europe who are suffering. They are my brothers." The FBI would spend the next 50 years calling you a criminal and a threat to American society. Judge Perlman called you something else. He called you effective. By the early 1930s, you and Lucky Luciano are building something that has never existed in American criminal history before. Not a gang, not a family, a national corporate structure. Luciano handles the street power. You handle the architecture, the territories, the rules, the governing body, even what becomes known as the Commission. A board of directors for organized crime with bylaws, dispute resolution mechanisms, and a financial system sophisticated enough to generate reliable income across multiple states simultaneously. You are the one man every crime boss in America will sit down with. Because you are Jewish, you cannot be a made man. You will never hold formal rank inside any Italian-American family. This is, paradoxically, your greatest advantage. Because you are outside the structure, every faction can trust you. Because you have no formal rank, you cannot threaten anyone's position. You are the CFO that nobody can accuse of wanting the CEO's job. By 1932, you are moving money from illegal operations in New Orleans into Swiss bank accounts. 2 years before Switzerland formally codifies banking secrecy into law. You built the system before the law that protects it even existed. The FBI is watching all of this. They cannot touch you. They have surveillance reports and informant accounts and the absolutely certain conviction that you are the financial brain behind everything. But the money is in Switzerland. The accounts are in other people's names, and the paper trail ends at the border. One FBI internal memo later leaked to the press and eventually immortalized in Godfather 2. Organized crime is bigger than U.S. Steel. The FBI reported those words. They wrote them down. They just never turned the tape over in time to get the exact quote on record. So they reported what they heard, and the press ran with it, and it stuck. You spent the rest of your life being asked about that quote. Your response every single time. When am I supposed to have said that? Let's break it down. By the mid-1930s, here's what Meyer Lansky has built. A national crime syndicate with a governing commission. A gambling operation spanning New York, Florida, Kentucky, and New Orleans. A bootlegging organization that supplied half of the eastern seaboard during Prohibition. A money laundering architecture using Swiss banks that the FBI cannot crack. And a personal net worth that investigators estimate at between $17 and $300 million, depending on which investigator you ask and how frustrated they are that day. And here's what the federal government of the United States has on him. A surveillance report from July 7th, 1962, that reads, and I am quoting directly, spends much time lounging around his home. Main pursuits seem to be playing gin rummy with friends, watching TV, and reading. 50 years of surveillance, and the best they had was that you really liked gin rummy. The war arrives in 1941 and gives you something you have been chasing your entire adult life, a chance to be the patriot you already know you are. In February 1942, a massive French luxury liner called the Normandy catches fire and capsizes in New York Harbor. The Navy suspects sabotage. The Italian longshoremen who control the docks are not talking to anyone wearing a government uniform. The waterfront is an impenetrable, closed world. Roosevelt is briefed on the situation. Mr. President, We don't control the docks. What do you mean? We're the US government. Do you remember who ran the docks when you were governor of New York? The Navy comes to you. Lucky Luciano is in prison, 12 years into a 30 to 50 year sentence. You arrange for him to be moved to a more comfortable facility closer to New York. You act as mediator between the Navy and the Sicilian mob boss. The mob's fishermen become the Navy's intelligence network. In June 1942, 8 Nazi spies are arrested after a tip from mob-controlled fishermen. The following year, when Allied forces invade Sicily, Lansky and Luciano provide maps, tide charts, beach terrain assessments, and the locations of Nazi strongholds from mob contacts who know the island better than the army does. Sicily falls in 6 weeks. The Navy acknowledges privately that the mob's assistance was invaluable. The FBI acknowledges nothing. Luciano is released from prison and immediately deported to Italy. You receive no recognition, no medal, no acknowledgement. The official record of Operation Underworld, as it was called, is classified. After your death, a medal of unknown provenance is found among your possessions, possibly a Medal of Freedom secretly awarded by the Office of Naval Intelligence. Possibly. Nobody ever officially confirmed anything. You served your country in the most significant military operation of the 20th century. Your country pretended it never happened, and they wonder why you were cynical. Now, Cuba. If the Swiss banking system was Meyer Lansky's greatest technical achievement, Cuba was his greatest operational one. Forget Las Vegas for a moment. Las Vegas was Bugsy's dream, built with your money, and we will discuss that shortly. Cuba was yours. In 1933, you approached Fulgencio Batista, not yet Cuba's president, but already the most powerful military figure in the country, and make an arrangement. Cash up front, guaranteed annual revenue from a gambling monopoly in exchange for control of Havana's racetracks and casinos. The handshake deal that will define Cuban politics for the next 26 years is made between a 5'4" Jewish accountant from the Lower East Side and a Cuban military general. No lawyers, no contracts, just money and mutual interest. By 1952, when Batista stages his coup and returns to power, you have been building toward this moment for 2 decades. You bribe the sitting Cuban president $250,000 to step aside without resistance. The coup succeeds cleanly. Batista appoints you formally as his advisor on gambling reform. He pays you $25,000 a year in salary. You pay him 30% of casino profits in return. The Riviera Hotel opens in December 1957, $14 million, built next to the seawall in Havana, the largest casino outside the United States. By the spring of that year, the casino at the Hotel Nacional alone is generating as much revenue as the biggest casinos in Las Vegas. You are 60 years old. You are running a sovereign country's entertainment industry in partnership with its head of state. You are completely beyond the reach of American law enforcement. And then, a 32-year-old lawyer named Fidel Castro comes down from the mountains with 500 guerrillas. January 1st, 1959. Batista flees. Castro takes Havana. Within hours, the casinos are seized. Within months, nationalized. Within a year, closed. You lose an estimated $7 million in property and an annual revenue stream generating tens of millions per year. 50 years of building. 1 revolution. Gone. You have 1 comment on the situation. 3 words. I crapped out. Let's break it down. Here is the final follow the money on Meyer Lansky. The FBI estimated he had hidden $300 million in offshore accounts. His family gathered for the reading of his will in 1983. They were expecting to inherit one of the greatest hidden fortunes in American history. What they found was a modest estate with very little in his name. His son Buddy, who had cerebral palsy and whom Lansky had spent his entire life trying to protect financially, was on state charity after his father's death. So what happened to the money? Here is the honest answer. He lost most of it in Cuba in 1959. He spent the rest on lawyers fighting the US government for the next 20 years. And whatever was left went to his mob partners. Because in Meyer Lansky's world, you paid your debts, you cut your partners in, and you did not steal from the people you worked with. The FBI spent 50 years looking for a man who had $2 billion hidden somewhere. The man they were looking for died with barely enough to cover his son's care. The greatest irony of Meyer Lansky's life is that the proof everyone used that he was a financial genius, nobody could find the money, turned out to be the proof he was not quite the genius everyone thought. He was just the smartest man in a room full of people who were not that smart. He said so himself, sort of. We're not operating from a very high plane. A guy like me comes along who is good with numbers and stands out, but I'm only bright in comparison with the people around me. The mob's accountant, modest to the end. Now, we have to talk about Bugsy. You have spent this entire story building empires, laundering money, and outsmarting governments. And every step of the way, in the background of every achievement, is this one problem. Your oldest friend is a lunatic, not a figure of speech. Bugsy Siegel genuinely enjoys violence in a way that makes everyone around him nervous, including you. He has killed people, multiple people. We will not speculate on the exact number. Siegel has moved to Los Angeles by now, where his film star looks have gotten him into the Hollywood social scene. Frank Sinatra knows him. Cary Grant knows him. George Raft knows him. Bugsy Siegel, murderer, is invited to the best parties in Beverly Hills. And he has a vision. A few hours drive from Los Angeles, a dusty desert stopover in Nevada, the one state in America where gambling is completely legal. Las Vegas. He wants to build a luxury hotel casino. The first one. He calls it the Flamingo. He comes to you for the money, you loan it. What starts as $1 million becomes $3 million, then 6, then more. The mob's money is flowing into the Nevada desert, and Bugsy Siegel is spending it like a man who has never met a budget he respected. His girlfriend, Virginia Hill, is widely suspected of stealing from the construction fund. When this is raised with Bugsy, he responds in the specific way Bugsy Siegel responds to everything. He tells everyone involved to go to hell. You are caught in the middle. Mob bosses from New York and Chicago are calling you furious. You are calling Bugsy and begging him to get it under control, to respect the investors, to stop going to Hollywood parties when there is construction to supervise. You do not tell a 41-year-old man who has killed people for fun that he needs to stop going to parties. He does not stop going to parties. June 20th, 1947. Bugsy Siegel is sitting in the living room of Virginia Hill's house on Linden Drive in Beverly Hills. He is reading a newspaper. He is not expecting company. Someone outside the window fires 9 rounds from a .30 caliber military carbine. 4 bullets hit him, 2 in the head. He is dead before he can fold the newspaper. 20 minutes later, 2 men walk into the Flamingo Hotel and tell staff they are the new management. Their names are Mo Sedway and Gus Greenbaum. Both are business partners of Meyer Lansky. The timing is, shall we say, notable. You are in a different city with a solid alibi. Did you order it? The honest answer is this. No one has ever proven you gave the order. Your wife Teddy maintained until her death that you would never have done that to your oldest friend. She used a careful word. Directly. She said he would never directly have anything to do with anything like that. Directly. It is the most loaded adverb in the history of organized crime. What is documented is this. The mob bosses who had lost money on Bugsy's construction disaster wanted him dead. You were the one man who could have saved him by vouching for him. The evidence suggests that at some point, you stopped making that case. And 20 minutes after he died, your partners walked into his hotel. For all that you craved respectability and legitimacy, this was the life you had chosen. And in that life, some problems eventually resolved themselves. The last act of Meyer Lansky's life is a 4-year journey through airports. The government is closing in. Tax evasion charges. The IRS has been building a case for years. You are 68 years old and tired of fighting. In July 1970, you fly to Israel with your wife Thelma and your Shih Tzu Bruiser. You intend to use the law of return, the Israeli statute granting citizenship to any person of Jewish heritage. You are going to retire in Tel Aviv and let the American government chase its own tail for the rest of your natural life. For 14 months, you walk Bruiser along the streets of Tel Aviv. Israelis stop you occasionally. Most of them have no idea who you are. You are a small, elderly American Jewish man walking his dog. It is the most peaceful 14 months of your life. Then the Israeli Interior Ministry denies your application. The United States government has threatened to withhold Phantom jet fighters from Israel unless you are expelled. Israel is fighting for its survival against neighboring Arab states. The Phantom jets matter considerably more than one elderly gangster from Miami Beach. The Israeli Supreme Court rules against you unanimously on September 11th, 1972. You have 6 weeks to leave. You try Paraguay. They will not let you off the plane. You try Bolivia. No. Brazil. No. Switzerland. No. Argentina. No. You are on an airplane for 3 days, flying from country to country across South America with nowhere to go. Every nation on Earth has decided it does not want Meyer Lansky. There is only one place left, The plane lands in Miami. The FBI is at the gate. You step off the aircraft. 5'4", 80 years old, carrying a small bag and wearing a hat. They arrest you immediately. You beat the tax evasion charge in 1973. The remaining charges are dropped in 1974. The government's position, stated without apparent irony, is that your health is deteriorating and the case is too expensive to continue prosecuting a man who has beaten them for 50 years. You go back to Miami Beach. You walk Bruiser along the waterfront every morning. You read the newspaper. You attend synagogue on the high holy days. You play gin rummy with friends. The FBI continues to watch. In 1974, Godfather 2 premieres. Lee Strasberg plays Hyman Roth, your character. He is nominated for an Academy Award. The portrayal is riveting, dangerous, cold, a man who builds empires and buries his enemies with a smile. You call Strasberg on the telephone to congratulate him. You tell him it was a good performance, and then you add one complaint. 5 words. You could have made me more sympathetic. The man the government called the most powerful criminal in America, the man who built Las Vegas, owned Cuba, and laundered hundreds of millions through Swiss banks for 50 years. The man they chased from Miami to Tel Aviv, to Asuncion, to Miami again. His only note on his own movie portrayal was that the character needed more likability. You die on January 15th, 1983. Lung cancer. Your own bed, shoes off, 80 years old. The FBI sends no flowers. Let's break it down one last time. Meyer Lansky spent 50 years as the most wanted financial criminal in America. The government spent an estimated hundreds of millions of dollars trying to prosecute him. The total time he served in meaningful incarceration, 0 days. The money they recovered, $0. The serious convictions they obtained, 0. Here is what his legacy actually built. The Swiss banking system that Lansky developed for laundering mob money in the 1930s became the architectural blueprint for every offshore financial system that followed. Every shell company, every nominee account, every loan-back scheme where dirty money disappears into a foreign bank and comes back clean as a legitimate investment. Lansky built that, not metaphorically, he built the actual system. The honest casinos he ran in New York and Florida in the 1940s and 50s were more profitable than cheating operations because volume beats manipulation every time. That principle runs every legal casino on earth today. The national crime syndicate he built with Luciano established the corporate governance model for organized crime that federal prosecutors are still fighting in 2025. He was not bigger than U.S. Steel, but what he built outlasted every single person who tried to stop him. So here's what I want you to sit with. Meyer Lansky spent his entire life trying to earn the respectability that America told him he could not have. Because of where he came from, because of his religion, because of the men he associated with. He watched Joe Kennedy, a bootlegger by any honest accounting, become the patriarch of America's most celebrated political dynasty. He watched the same government that used his mob network to help win World War II pretend the partnership never happened. He watched Senator Kefauver lecture him about gambling, a senator who bet on horses every weekend. Was Meyer Lansky a criminal? Yes, obviously. But was the system that refused to accept him any cleaner than the one he built alongside it? That is the question worth dropping in the comments. And while you are there, do you think the money is really gone? $300 million, the FBI said. His son died on state charity. His family got almost nothing from the will. Did Meyer Lansky die broke? Or did he die the same way he lived, with nobody able to find what they were looking for? Hit subscribe. Follow the money.